partnerships. I will tell a little bit more about that later. I got invited today by Bert Lammerichs. He's our franchise director in Ecuador. We started working with Bert in 2022. Bert already lives there since 1994, and he has a background in managing several flower farms and agricultural projects. Besides that, he has a business for sustainable construction, and that called Groen Huske. And Groen Huske means a greenhouse, if I'm correct. The question, who are we? Of course, I'm just one person from Sempergreen. In the picture you see on the screen on the left, that's Corné van Garderen. Corné started the company 27 years ago, when he was just a teenager. He did that on the farm of his father. And last year, another company became partly shareholder of Sempergreen, and that's the MSQ group. That's a group for roofing materials. And the gentleman on the right, Martin Marstenbroek, is their CEO. But we're all involved in the field of roofing and green roofing. With Sempergreen, we have offices in the Netherlands, but we also have an office in the US. And we have several franchise partnerships in other parts of the world. I believe we have in total 15 places where we grow sedum. And sedum is the plant I'm going to explain a bit more about that we're using to grow the green roofs. Currently in Latin America, we have 3 startups. And I have to say, Bert, with his business, is not a startup anymore. But besides Bert, we're also started in Mexico, and we started in Argentina, and we're already for some time in Colombia. This is the map where you can see all our locations. I pointed out where the Netherlands is. That makes it most easy. You can see we're not doing too much in Africa. The reason for that is because it's a bit too warm in Africa, and the climate is not suitable to grow our plants. Now, to introduce Sempergreen, we have a brand movie, and I'm going to play that movie now. It will take about 2 minutes. So please watch and enjoy.
Since the beginning, plants have been our allies. When they breathe out, we breathe in, supporting us, shielding us, healing us. We absorb their vitality, not just physically, but also spiritually. We can only hope that we are as useful to plants as they are to us. Yet, humanity today is painting the planet concrete grey. The positive effects of plants stripped away, exposing a lifeless, petrified world. Let's face it, cities are here to stay. We are Sempergreen on a mission to bring back plant-human harmony, reclaiming every surface, wall and roof, because we have the experience, the know-how, and living proof of a future covered in plants from each of our nurseries to rewind the growing cities, harvesting the natural power of green until all those shades of grey are gone away. We planting, we growing inch by inch, meter by meter, mile for mile. So here's to plant, being back in business. Sempergreen, replanting the planet.
I hope you enjoyed that movie. I go to the next slide, and in the movie we're referring a lot to the green city because we see that a lot of cities are built, but then there's not enough space for greenery in the city. A lot of places are being concrete. So with Sempergreen, what we're doing, we're developing and producing products and growing products to make the cities green again. And if you see the picture in front of us, you see different types of green roofs. Some green roofs on this picture, they're meant to be just simple sedum roofs, but we have the combination as well with solar panels. There are green roofs that you can use like a garden where you can sit in on top of a roof. We have different types of sloped green roofs. So with Sempergreen, we're not only doing flat green roofs, but we can also do slope roofs. And one of our other businesses is to make green walls and green facades, you see on the picture as well. And we're using our products to replace grass in the cities for less maintenance. And this is a bit how we see the future, a green city where we make gray green. And just a small explanation, why do we want to make all these roofs green? What is the benefit if you do that? The first one, if you cover a roof with green, with landscaping, anything under the roof, like the waterproofing, will have an extended life because the green roof is protecting it. The other reason why you can do it is because you want to place solar panels, and then the return of voltage will be higher if there's green, because green is cooling. Of course, rainwater retention is and stormwater management is a big one, and increasing biodiversity. But for me, the most interesting one in warmer climates is that a green roof is reducing the temperature inside the house. And we did some studies in Spain, and these are not official studies, but what people did, they measured the temperature inside the house before they installed the green roof and after they installed the green roof. And they found out that the temperature difference is 5 to 7 degrees. You could almost compare a green roof with an air conditioning, but an air conditioning that doesn't cost any electricity. And why is a green roof cooling down the room below? Well, there's two reasons. A green roof always has some moisture in it, and what plants start doing, they're doing transpiration. They're breathing from their leaves. Why they're releasing the heat? At the same time, the heat is also getting released from the soil that's underneath by evaporation. And of course, the soil that's on the roof is also insulating, making the area under the roof to cool down. For me, this is a really important one because this is something that benefits you directly. In colder climates, it's also insulating against the cold, but that effect is very minimum because if the roof is wet, all the cold still gets transferred to the part below. To make this possible, we came up with a lightweight system. And a lightweight system exists out of a sedum blanket, and I will tell after this a bit more about our sedum blankets. There is a buildup of substrate, how we call it, but you could say lightweight soil, and that would be 3 to 6 centimeters. Below that, we put a geotextile drainage layer and a protection sheet to protect the waterproofing. Together, this package is about 90 kilograms per square meter. If you have normal, traditional green roof systems, or green roof gardens, I should say, that's at least 150 kilos per square meter, or about 300 kilograms per square meter. The only thing what you need to consider is the weight of the buildup of this roof, but you also need to walk on top of it. So the roof should have an allowance from about 200 kilograms per square meter, and I believe that's also the regulation by government in Ecuador. Then we go to our core product, our vegetation blankets. On top of the screen, you see that they're rolled like they're also rolled carpet grass. And on the right side, you actually see a picture how the product looks like. The big benefit of this is these are pre-grown blankets. This is grown for a year in a nursery. Once you install it, it's ready. It doesn't have to grow anymore. You don't have to start weeding directly. This is all the reason what is on the screen. But your soil is covered. So biggest benefit is maintenance from the start. You don't have to do so much maintenance. We can grow the plants in a very thin layer. That also benefits because that means you don't need to put so much substrate to put plug plants in, and it's protected against wind erosion as well. So you could say you have instant green on your roof. And I'm going to show you a small movie of a project where we use this product. This is a social housing project in the Netherlands. It's about 40 years old, the project itself, the buildings. And the owner of the building had the question like, okay, I want to put solar panels on my roof because I want a more sustainable building. But at the same time, I would like to add a green roof to cool down the inside of the building as well. Then for them in the Netherlands, we made a very lightweight system, and that system is with mineral wool. It's a bit more expensive. And then we were able to make a green roof and to install solar panels. And this movie I'm going to show, it's made about 3 months after installation. So it gives you a good idea how it looks, and also what I explained in the previous sheet. And that with this product, your roof is instantly green. So as you can see, this is quite a big project. I believe it's 6 buildings by itself. For some reason, the last building there did not make green. Not sure why. But it's a reasonable, easy solution for this client to make his roof green. They did not have to change anything about the construction. 2 slides back, I showed you the blankets. In these blankets, we use sedum plants. And then people always ask me, why do you use sedum plants? Why don't you use grass? Or why don't you use herbs, for example? Well, we choose sedum, the sedum plant. As sedum plants that originally grow in the mountains, in rocky areas, and they're really drought resistant. So even if you have a few months without rain, the plants will stay alive. So they're really strong. Besides that, there's only little disease they can get. Normally what they will suffer from is pests, but not even from fungus. And once you plant a sedum plant, it will start making new seeds and start growing new plants. So if people ask me how long is the life expectancy of your blankets, of your system, then I will always tell them like, this is never ending, because these plants are regenerating themselves. The interesting part of this product, that we can grow it in different climates, because we have different locations around the world. With this technology, with the way how we're growing it, we can do it in many places. Unfortunately, if a country or a place where we want to grow is in a tropical climate, it's not possible, because the challenge with this plant is that it needs colder and warmer periods. And if you have a tropic climate, and the temperature stays the same, and then after 1 year or after 6 months, the Plants will shrink and shrink. At some point, they will die and disappear. So we're always really careful if we select our plants and the place where we want to sell it, where we want to grow it, if the climate is suitable for these plants. A really important one, and this is also the challenging one, is the selection of the plants. On the picture on the right, this is in the Netherlands. It's a table where we try different mixtures of sedum plants. We did the same with Bert in Ecuador to check how are the plants reacting to the climate, which one are growing faster. Sometimes in different climates, plants become dominant, so they grow too fast and they're overtaking the whole roof. And we always like to go for a mixture, and I will explain later a little bit why that is. And I have to say it's quite challenging to start growing sedum. We have a lot of people around us trying to do the same, and they start with 2 or 3 types. And then after 1 year, it's a disaster, because if you don't know exactly which plants to choose, the result can be very dramatic. So it's still challenging, but that's a good thing for our business. I have to say we're doing this for 27 years, so that also means we're testing for 27 years. And even in Europe, we still make changes in the plant selection. That also is because our clients are demanding different things than they did 27 years ago. If you have any questions about this, we can discuss that after the presentation. Then biodiversity. Biodiversity is becoming a more and more hot subject around the world. We see this in Europe, we see this in Latin America, we see this in the US, that people are asking, okay, it's nice that the plant is green, but besides that the plant is green and it's cooling down our roof, what is it doing for biodiversity? So what we are trying to do, if we make the selections for the plants that we use in our blankets, we're trying to take plants that follow each other with flowering, so that you don't have like 3 weeks of flowering of one sedum plant, but we're trying to extend it to 4 or 5 months that the product is flowering. Some flowering is very nice, some flowering is small. And some of the clients, they say, we still like to add some more biodiversity. We would like to make the roof more attractive to other animals, to other insects. And then we have the option, and we don't have the option in Ecuador yet, but we need to investigate how we can do that. But then we make a biodiverse island on the roof. That's an area where we don't grow sedum, in fact. But there we select special types of pieces of wood, the woods where the bees and the butterflies go, but also other insects. On that areas we put a little bit more substrate, and by substrate I mean soil, but in Europe that's the name we use for it. And we use different type of plants that attract different types of insects. And by doing that, we create that biodiverse island, and it's more attractive for animals, and it's a better place for them to live. I can also understand some people say, no, I just want to have it clean, and we don't want all the bugs and everything on the roof. Then, of course, you can choose not to do it. But on the end, we're trying to create a better world and a better environment in the city. So then this is part of it. Then I would like to show you some international projects, just to get some inspiration from my side. This is a project in New York. It's about 5,500 square meter of sedum blankets. This is on top of a garage. The special thing about this roof is that with this roof, they're trying to retain stormwater. So there's a special buildup with water cups, that's how we call it, that's collecting water when it rains, and slowly is releasing it. This was a requirement from the builder, and Sempergreen found a solution for this. The next one, it's called Brielle. It's a city in the Netherlands. The city of Brielle, they said, we don't want any new buildings to be built. But then they had a challenge because they still wanted to build a supermarket. So they said, okay, you can build a supermarket, you can do it on the outskirts of the city. But part of the design needs to blend into the surroundings. So then the architect came up with this idea of making the roof area green as well. So if you see it from distance, especially from the other side, it looks like it's one piece of green and that there's nothing there except the 4 small buildings on the green roof. And actually in the small buildings there is heating systems, air conditioning systems, and this kind of utilities. Then Colombia, a little bit more near to you. This is a project from 2016. It's called the FCF Hospital. It's believed ranked one of the 8 best hospitals in Latin America. These are not only sedum plants, because they're also growing different types of plants in this project. But the architect of this project really believed that adding more and more green around the hospital is better for the health of the patients. That's also something that comes out of research. And I believe under the landscaping there is in fact a parking deck where the visitors can park. This is a project in Spain where it's a bit warmer. This is the head office of EMPO, and EMPO is a manufacturing of steel structures. But when they built the building, and the picture where you see the green roof, it's part of the warehouse. They want to build a lightweight structure, because then you have to spend less money on the steel structure. But at the same time, they were aiming for LEED certification. So they asked us, can you come up with a green roof with a very lightweight again, so we can still make this green roof here. We succeeded, as you can see on the picture. The building also got awarded a LEED Gold certification. So that means that it has very high sustainability standards. This is again a project in the Netherlands. It's called Otterburg. I believe this building is more than 100 years old. So it's a historic building. The owner wanted to make it a green roof. The municipality actually encouraged him to do it, to be able and to be allowed. I think they're vending it out for weddings. But they need a solution as well. Well, it was an old building, so it's not easy. It's an old structure. It's a sloped roof, but we managed to do it. I cannot show you at the moment how we did it. We can send you the information later. But there's a special system that it's like bananas that keeps the soil in place on the roof, and they placed the sedum blankets on top. This is a picture of the installation. I believe this is done a year ago. I did not see yet a picture of the final result. If we see, we can share it with you as well. This is something else we do with our pre-grown blankets. This is in France. In France, they used to have a lot of grass in between the roads, but also the labor costs are rising in France. So they preferred to use this product, the sedum blanket, because it's lower in maintenance. Lawn, grass, you need to mow about 15 times per year, and a sedum blanket you only need to weed 1 time per year. So that's a bit cheaper. And also for the people around it looks much nicer because, of course, grass is only green. And as you can see on the picture, our sedum blankets and the sedum plants have all different types of colors. This is a carport in Melbourne. We started growing sedum in Melbourne in 2021, so about 3 years ago. This is one of the first projects they did. This was last year. Growing the product and the trials normally take 2 or 3 years before we actually start selling. But the nice thing is that the people in Australia start adopting our products, and we see more and more requests and more roofs being installed. And I want to show you one thing on the right. This is the daily sperma. That's how the plant called. This is in fact not a sedum plant. I think it's original from South Africa. But in Australia and Melbourne, they are using these plants as well in the green roofs to boost that biodiversity and to also make it look better. I'm not sure if we already tried this in Ecuador, but we could also do it. But again, all these plants are sensitive to different climates. This is another one in Sydney. This one is being installed as we speak. It's the Talawong precinct. It's in Sydney. It's a project of 2,000 square meter. Again, this is it's a lightweight roof, but a bit more heavy than the one you will use in Ecuador, because the temperatures in Australia are more extreme. I believe it went up to 44 degrees Celsius last summer. So that means you need more soil to buffer moisture. And one more. This one is in Italy. It's again used as a ground covering plant. I personally like it if they're doing this kind of things, because it will save a lot of maintenance, but besides that, it looks really great. My last slide for today already. This is a project in Auckland, New Zealand. This is a different product. You can see they're using sedum trays, how they call it. We started the partnership in 2022, so only 2 years ago. And our partner there, Green Roofs Ltd, won the project to make 30 bus shelters greener. And what the local municipality required from the advertising companies, because these bus shelters, they have always these big posters. They said, okay, you can place your posters there, and you can do that for 2 years. But one of the conditions is that you make sure that all the bus shelters are getting green roofs. So that's what's happening. And I think we did 15 of the 30 at the moment. But you can understand, if you just started your business and you have to supply so many bus shelters, it's quite challenging to grow them as well. That's a little bit of a luxury problem, but it is a challenge. This was already my last slide of my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Thank you, Walter, for your time. There was people, if you want to ask some questions, we have Pamela raising her hand. So Pamela, you can open your microphone and make the question. We cannot hear you. There you are. No. Do you hear, Pamela? Try again, otherwise you can write in the chat maybe, if your microphone is not working. Esperemos un rato. Let's wait a little bit to see if her microphone works, right? Maybe while you fix your microphone, Pamela, we are going to give the word to Paola, that's raising the hand. So, Paola.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, Walter. Am I pronouncing it well? I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure.
you do.
Okay,
You
great.
pronounce it well. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Paola, and I'm representing a company here in Ecuador. We are Plastic Eco Solutions. Actually, I had the opportunity to know more about Sempergreen at some months ago when we were with Bert at the Sustainability Summit here in Quito, Ecuador. So I was very interested about the green roofing and all the things you guys are doing with this. And I was thinking, because something that really interests me, due to the fact that we are a company that produce boards made out of recycled Tetra Pak, and they have very special let's say benefits for green roofing. Actually, some of the most important companies here in Ecuador use our boards for green roofing. And I was thinking if you can explain a little bit more about what you use for the first layer you have in the roofing is there is a board there, right? I don't know how you call it. I think it's the difference. It's the first layer.
Yeah, what we do, and this really depends on the country you're doing this in, because, for example, in Europe they have a different way of the buildup of the layers than they have in Australia. What we use in Europe is a protection fleece, so that's a really soft material. And on top of that, there's what we call a drainage layer. So maybe that's the board you're referring to. That's the where the water goes out.
Yeah, I think it's the one that protects the roof, between the roofing and the cement or anything you have behind the roofing itself. Yeah, we were thinking it could be a good option to offer this green, but actually I was interested to know more about what you guys are using here in Ecuador, and actually everywhere. It would be very interesting to see and probably have a longer conversation about it later.
Yeah, sure. We can do it together with Bert. If you just drop him or me an email afterwards, then we can set up a meeting.
That would be great. That would be great.
Let's do that.
Paola, I just put in the chat the mail of Bert, that is Sempergreen representative here in Ecuador, so we can go in a meeting for this, for going further with this. Thank you for your question. I don't know, Pamela, if your microphone is working.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Walter, for your presentation. It was really nice to see that this is really a suitable type of system for the external roofs. However, I wanted to know a bit more about the system for the facades. It is the same system, or is a bit different what you are using? And another question, sorry, is like these sedum plants can be used in interior spaces, or you are just focused on the exterior part?
Okay, I'm going to answer first your first question about the green
Thanks.
facades. The green facade we don't do in Ecuador. It's a bit a harsh reason for it, but that's because the product is very expensive, and it's not meeting the price benchmark of what would be accepted in Ecuador. But it's a system. It's mineral wool panels, so it's like glass wool that's in there, and in the glass wool there are plants growing. But actually, we're not using sedum plants in there. We're using different plants for that system. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture in my presentation of it, but I can send you some information if you would like to see it anyhow.
Sure, thanks.
And your second question, if you see them inside, the answer is no. And the reason is you can do it, but like I explained in one of my sheets, the sedum plant likes warm times and cold area times to really grow well. If you would put the seed and plants inside, after a few months, they become smaller and smaller, and they will disappear.
Okay, so light is not really a problem in that case, lighting, for example, because sometimes with interior plants, I have that problem that at the beginning, the first months, it looked great, the client is super happy, but the next year, they had to change some plants, they didn't work, or things like that happened. So interior, my biggest concern is actually the lighting part.
Yeah, of course, light is also influencing it, because like any plant, if there's not enough light, they will not grow or they will not be happy. But it's more the temperature and the lack of temperature differences why the plant is not suitable for indoor. I do have to say that some people do use it indoor, but then they have to swap it every few months.
And for example, here in this about how it works for the seedling plants. So in Ecuador, it's just suitable for the climate that we have on the Andes, let's say, Quito, Cuenca, but not really then for tropical areas like Guayaquil or the Amazon area. Perfect. Well,
that's correct.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. You're welcome. I hope my answers were satisfying.
Yes, great. Thank you, Walter. I don't know if someone else wants to raise their hand, open microphone, or maybe if you prefer, Santiago Montenegro. Santi, are you there? You can ask. We cannot hear you. Maybe there is a problem with your microphone. Santiago, would you like to try again with your microphone? Otherwise, you can write in the chat the question too. Okay, let's see if he can solve the problem with the microphone. Anyone else would like to take advantage of these last minutes to make a question for Walter? I also put in the chat the mail of Bert, who's the person in charge in Ecuador of Sempergreen. So feel free to contact him for further information about the products that are here in Ecuador. And I think that there are no more questions, Walter. I just want to mention about the Outerberg project, the green roof in the slope. I think that's like a really interesting solution for some historic center areas that have already existing infrastructure, and most of them have. And the picture was really interesting because you could see that it was a really slope, a really high level of a slope, and you could make it. So I don't know if that product is also here in Ecuador. Could it be possible to install it?
It could be possible, but then it's for me and Bert to see what's the demand. A lot of things are possible. We choose just to start with the horizontal projects, let's say like that, the flat roofs.
Yes.
But for sure it's possible to it sloped as well. But we have to do it step by step.
Yes, great. That will be great to go in further projects for our historic center. Okay, we have a question in Spanish. Let me read it and translate it. Okay, Fernando is asking, how much time does the impermeabilization system will last? Like how many times do we will need to replace it in the future to avoid having like problems with the water in the roofs?
Well, the plant itself, of course, that is regenerating. I would say the materials underneath that will stay at least good for 20 years. There's green roofs that are already fine for 40 years. So let's say for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a great number. Also, he asked about the maintenance, like how often do you need to make maintenance to these kind of roofs?
Normally it's once or twice per year. It has a little bit, I have to be a little bit careful with what I'm saying. If it's a very wet period, then there's more weeds growing. and then probably you will need to weed more. The nice thing normally is that if you have like a few weeks of dry time that it's not raining, then the weeds are dying because they don't get any water anymore. But that sedum plant is keeping its moisture in the leaves so they will survive. And that means you don't need to do maintenance because the plants die by themselves. However, if you're unlucky and it's raining a lot and it's warm and it's raining a lot, you probably will need to do more maintenance. Normally they say once or twice per year.
Okay, great. That will also in Ecuador depends on where is your project too, no? So
Exactly.
I hope, Fernando, we solve your question. I don't know. Pamela also asked, sorry, I didn't read the question. How accessible is the cost? Can you talk a little bit, or maybe, Bert, if you help Water with that, a little bit about the cost of these roofs, green roofs?
Bert told me, but I have to say that I've written it somewhere down that I cannot access now because I don't want to move my screens. Bert, can you answer the question?
Bert, ¿estás por aquí para que nos ayudes con esta respuesta? Respecto a los costos del sistema de cubiertas. Okay, we will let this question to the end, Pamela,
Yes.
while Bert can open his microphone and give us a little bit about the costs. Fernando is asking something about how the water, how the water system works. Is it independent, the green roof draining system from the water recollecting system? How does the water work in all this green roof system? Can you go farther in that?
That is, again, that depends on where you're going to install it. And I'm also pretty sure in Ecuador, it depends where you're going to install it. If it's very dry areas and it needs extra water, then it's like a traditional irrigation lines, like you would use in landscaping. Sometimes you use the sprinkling system, but it's completely separate from the drainage layers. So the drain that's on the bottom, it's not influencing it's not a way of giving water. That's only to drain the water out.
So they are two different systems, right?
There are two different systems, correct?
Okay, great. I don't know, Bert, if you are there to give us a little bit further about the costs. Here, Edison is also helping Bert about the cost. Edison, maybe if you want to open your microphone, you can go further in the the cost about these systems.
Sí, hola, buenos días. Soy Jimena Buenaño de la empresa Jardines en Todas Partes. Trabajamos con Bert aquí con Sempergreen, Ecuador, y puedo dar una referencia en cuanto a costos, y obviamente es solo una referencia porque va a depender también de la ubicación, de la cantidad. En cuanto al costo, se tienen que considerar dos fases: la fase del producto en sí, la fase de la instalación y la fase previa, que tiene que ser la impermeabilización. En cuanto a los costos del tapete de sedum en sí, la referencia es de $30 por metro cuadrado, y la referencia de la instalación y los cuidados previos durante 6 meses es de otros $30. Sin embargo, el trabajo previo de impermeabilización puede variar dependiendo de la superficie y del sistema de impermeabilización que se utilice. Y obviamente, si es que alguien tiene otras dudas adicionales, puede dejar los datos para posteriormente afinar este detalle o complementar esta información.
Muchas gracias. Thank you. She was giving us a little bit further on the cost.
We cannot hear you.
we put in the chat the mail of Bert, so there you have also information to ask him directly. But Edison, well, it's not Edison, I don't know your name, but thank you for your answer. You give us a really good idea about the cost of the system. With that, I think that we are on time. So I would like to thank you, Walter, Bert, and everyone that has been connected to this session. Remember that if you would like to have access to this will be in our webpage, so you will have the information again. And thank you, Walter, for your time. Thank you for your presentation, and congratulations for such a great system. Hopefully, we will see it more in Salad here in Ecuador.
Okay, well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And I wish you a very nice day all.
Thank you, everyone. Muchas gracias a todos. Estamos en nuestro último webinar de hoy y con esto cerramos. Gracias.